What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of my HLTV Fantasy. Today we are looking at the PGL Cluj-Napoca 2025 group stages. The lineup for Kato playoffs went pretty badly. MIR did exactly what we expected of him, but Spirit losing in the final, I didn't expect. I thought if they went to the final, they're going to do well. And then Eternal Fire, of course, losing to the Mongols in the first match, really backfiring on me. Should have gone for a Vitality lineup, I guess, in retrospect. It was always going to be tight games between some of those teams, and I felt like this was a worthy gamble, but, you know, this can happen, of course. Unfortunately, not even a top 50% here, but to move. It happens. It was a lineup that I felt was pretty safe, but, you know, this can happen. Mongols are decent. In terms of Cluj-Napoca, this is the seeding. I'm actually using Liquipedia's page now, which is not made for this layout that I've got. But yeah, Liquipedia actually shows us the seeding that we go into the group stage with. It's essentially, at least I'm assuming, gonna work the same as majors, because it's gonna be a Swiss stage, and like the best rated teams go through. So at least it is like Mongols versus Complexity, FaZe Clan versus Saw, these kinds of matchups, and then Eternal Fire versus Imperial Female as well. And then, if I've understood correctly how the seeding works for the second round, it's going to be essentially the best rated 1-0 team against the worst rated 1-0 team, and so on and so forth. So, for example, if all of the winning teams here work, or all of the better seeded teams here win their first matchups, then it would be Mongols, Eternal Fire, FaZe Clan, 3D Max, Mouse, MIBR, and so on. However, I don't really expect that to happen, you know. I wouldn't expect, for example, well, I just wouldn't expect all of these matchups to go that way, even though some of them are pretty one-sided in my eyes. You can take a look at the first round of picks here as well, or first round of matches. I would say Mouse Big could go either way nowadays. Without Shuei on Mouse, I think it's actually a pretty 50-50 matchup. 3D Max VP, we saw VP make it to the playoffs in Kato, but I still think 3D Max is maybe even slightly favored in this matchup. I think FaZe is going to crush Saw. I think they are. Saw is very weak currently, and I think FaZe is still at least got the firepower edge by a long margin here. Falcons, FlyQuest. We don't know what to expect of Falcons. FlyQuest is slightly better than they were last season with Regali. I'd maybe give a slight edge to Falcons, though, just based off firepower. But, you know, could go either way. Mongols Complexity, I think, is one of the most one-sided matchups here. I am definitely rating Mongols higher here. Complexity, I don't have high expectations for at all. MIBR Wildcard is actually pretty 50-50 as well in my eyes. I think Wildcard is slightly underrated by many people. I mean, they did well at the major, and we have no reason to really doubt that they could do something like that here as well. MIBR is kind of very coin flippy as well. Sometimes they look insane. If Insani, for example, does very well, if Safe is playing well with the AWP, they've got the pieces to do damage in this kind of event, but, you know, sometimes they just fall completely flat. Pain Astralis, I just don't think Astralis is a good team right now, and Pain is at least decent. Davideus is a great addition. I think that Pain is favored in this matchup. And then probably the most one-sided matchup here, Eternal Fire versus Imperial Female, or Imperial Valkyries. I think Eternal Fire is going to just crush them. In terms of teams that I would like to pick from most, it's FaZe Clan, Mongols, and Eternal Fire. Makes sense, right? I mean, those are the most one-sided first matchups. FaZe and Mongols have the best seed, so if you want to play the seeding game, I guess Mongols and FaZe Clan would be the teams to go for here. But I would also consider Eternal Fire, because the difference in skill between Eternal Fire and Imperial Female, as opposed to Mongols and Complexity or FaZe Clan, so it's way bigger, and the potential for points is higher here. But also, I think there's one fifth player, as in a cheap player, who is not very highly picked, but I think should be higher picked. And I'm actually gonna kind of lock him into my team already. It's Body. Even if they lose to VP in the first matchup, I think this is actually a kind of a sleeper good pick. So last month, he's only been playing on 3D Max. His rating and his price are based on his time on Fnatic. So he's gone from IGLing a weaker team to being a rifler on a stronger team. The early signs are very good. I mean, this doesn't really matter, but he's done well against a team of the caliber of Heroic, which is around the level of teams that are going to be playing here. I mean, 3D Max is looking just strong this season still, which is actually a bit unexpected for me. I thought they might fall off a bit. But yeah, they're looking solid. And Body, you know, for this price, I think it's a kind of a no-brainer pick. You need to have these cheap players, and in this price bracket, I think Body is just an obvious player to go for. Just because essentially he's been mispriced. Not because of a problem or a mistake by HLTV. It's just the way that they price the players. I believe the pricing already came in before he even played these matches. But yeah, I think Body is pretty much locked into my team. That leaves us quite a good amount of cash to pick players from essentially these 15 players. I think Eternal Fire I have to go for, just because of the fact that they're playing Imperial Female in the first matchup, and the potential of farming them is just slightly too high. Like, honestly, I just wouldn't want to not have Eternal Fire players in my team. Which ones to go for? I think could go for almost all of them. Major, of course, like having the cheapest one usually makes sense, because even against the worst teams, he has potential to farm, and he's the kind of player who's going to make those aggressive maneuvers. And if they work, he could be in for a big haul of points. Obviously, Zantares could be very good. Voxic could be very good. Like, all of these players have the potential to be like some of the best players on their team for this group. At least to start out with, I'll go with Jota and Major, just because they're the cheapest guys. I actually kind of liked Jota as a pick when I picked him in Kato, not the playoffs, but the group stage. He was doing pretty well. And I mean, if we have the price or the money for some of these other picks, we could go there. And then it's between FaZe and the Mongols. I feel like they are in a very similar position. I feel like I expect both of them to go through every time in this case. And yeah, I don't know. I think both of these teams are going to be strong in the playoffs, and it's just gonna, or in this group stage, and gonna make it to the playoffs. And it's just a matter of picking the correct players. Who those correct players are, that's a harder question. They could even go like a 3 or 2-1-1-1, as in going for one of FaZe, one of Mongols. I'm not opposed to that at all. Elish has been very strong so far, right, on this team. No, he hasn't actually been that strong so far this month. Okay. I thought this rating was indicative of him being stronger than he's been. His ratings here are pretty weird. I guess, like, yeah. I think this is more indicative going on last month. There's some interesting ratings there. I don't think it's Carrigan, because I don't know where I would even use that money. I wouldn't want to go for Zantares, I don't think. I think, yeah, the lineup I made for the first time when I was looking at these combinations, this is like the first draft I made, and it looks very strong. We get some of the best players on the Mongols. Senzu's been in a bit of a downward situation, but he's still supposed to be like the best rated player on the Mongols, or the best star player on this team. He was almost top 20 last year. 910 is usually very reliable as well. I think Senzu for 209 sounds really good. He's usually so much more expensive, but okay, that I guess that's the reason why he's been priced this way. But do we really expect him to have fallen off this much just based on a couple results? Not really. And also the Mongols just did well anyways. If I don't think of anything better than this, I'm just gonna go for it. If I free up some money, instead of going for 910, who can I get here? Like Woxic. Can I reasonably go for Zantares? I guess it would be like it's Techno. Not even enough, no. It would probably have to be like Harrigan, someone. That's almost enough, actually. This is kind of a great lineup. There's some pretty good potential lineups here. But I'm not feeling Harrigan as a pick here. I feel like we can just make some very strong lineups without him. I'm also not that high on Zantares. Any of these guys could be good enough. Like, it just depends on... I mean, Zantares can absolutely farm Imperial female, but so can any of the other guys. That's the problem, right? Maybe it's Woxic. Might actually be Woxic, to be honest. As the best player. He's been impressive so far. Just melted against the Mongols, but apart from that, there's some really good results here. It's hard here. It's actually hard to pick a team. Makes sense. Apart from like the one that I already showed, but I'm just afraid of like Jota not getting enough action in the Imperial team or Imperial female game because he's not really an opener or entry. I guess he's a bit of an entry, but he's not always the most aggressive. But you know, does that always even matter? No, I don't think so. The phase players, it's just... I feel like when the Mongols do well, usually the whole team does well. Whereas on phase, it's just random who's gonna do the best in any given tournament. I feel like I want to go for Mongols more than phase here. They also have the best seed. That slightly pushes it towards the Mongols. Very strong. But is 910 really that good? Like, how good is 910 stats so far this season? Like, good, but is it worth 213? If we downgrade... Do I even want to make the Jota to Wycadia jump, though? I probably do. I think Wycadia is, like, very inconsistent, but he has very high highs. So he's the kind of player who definitely could have standout performance versus Imperial. Oh boy. I think Senzu is almost locked. However, Blitz, like, it's all about looking at these last month stats for these players right now. Blitz is still very strong. Techno had a really good playoffs, but it was just a couple of maps, of course. I don't want to rely too much on a low sample size like that. Go even... Yeah, with Blitz you can go for any of these guys. And then maybe it's just worth to go. Not enough money either. 2 grand off. What if you don't go for... What if you go Wycadia Jota? You don't even get enough for that. And it's actually hard. I've looked at some other players here, but there's no one really that jumps to me as a great pick. I think it's just body and combination of the other stuff. Like maybe Fame for 203 looks pretty good. He's seemed more comfortable in this new lineup. Yeah, you can't do this. I don't think I can go. Like if this was this with Carrigan, I think I might go for. This. No, you can't. Pay off again. Very awkward with the money if I want to go for Senzu, unless I go for literally this. Might just be this. Go big on Mongols. I think this is just the lineup. I can't find something better. I like a lot of the things about it. It's going on the cheap guys from Eternal Fire who should farm Imperial. I think Techno is a bit of a trap. We don't expect that high of a... Like, he's still supposed to be like the lowest rated player in Mongols. We're not going for a fade. We're actually kind of outside the box here. Like, we have only 2 of the 8 most picked players here. Not going phase. I still think phase is a very solid pick here. Trying to think if there's like any good combination like this, but it's... Yeah, there's not enough rain here either. Vicadia, rain, and on here. That's pretty decent as well, but I think I just like... I think in this comparison... Vicadia versus Jota. How big is the difference in stats here? Last month, Vicadia 1.7. It's a pretty big difference, to be honest. It's a pretty decent sample size of matches. Maybe the 4K is just super worth it. Between Jota and Vicadia. I just have this feeling of Vicadia being very inconsistent, but maybe it's not that founded. Maybe it's just not as true. I feel like it is. Also, the 910 price in comparison to like a Blitz price is a bit questionable in my eyes. And then we could go Rain, but I think Blitz is just better than Rain as a pick. Techno, whatever. But I don't think you want to go for Techno. Yeah, this doesn't also allow you to go for any of these 3 guys if you want to gamble. Techno Senso. 203. Not really interested in. Yeah, we can't even get you guys. So is it just... I do like Senzu more than I like Mezinho and 910. Even though these 2 guys have been just better in the recent... Like even this, like... Mezinho hasn't been that great. Yeah, I don't know. It's just that Techno kind of carried them a little. But I think Senzu is still supposed to be the highest rated player on this team. Maybe it's actually this. We're floating 4K. I think it's still worth it. Because like the comparison between Jota and Vicadia has kind of swayed my mind a little. Where I think Jota is kind of not that great a pick for 205k. He was under 200k when I picked him last time, and he was very good for that price, but 205k might be too much. Go Voxic and Techno and go Frozen. That's actually tempting. But I don't want to go for one of the expensive phase guys. Like, the problem with phase as a pick here is we just don't know what the roles are gonna be like here. I still feel like there's figuring things out, whereas Mongols is pretty set as a team. They pretty much know what's happening. If I could just do this, I would be so happy. It's always the question of we get some extra extra dollars from somewhere. Can you do Zantaras, Techno, and no, can't do that either. That would be great. That would be a great Techno lineup. Yeah, I think it's actually this, and we just float 4K. I like this lineup. I really like Body as a pick. I think it might be the best pick in the whole event, value-wise. And then I just expect these teams to make it through every time, and some of the matchups are pretty easy. Let's go for this. Roles. What is actually the best role for Body? It's hard to predict actually, because he's playing he might be playing some different roles. I guess eco-friendly here. And major, usually eco-friendly. But support is also decent on him. Okay. Senzu probably headshots. 4750. Yeah. Then Blitz and Vicadia. These could be a bit difficult. Hunter is actually one of his better roles. Could also be leader. What about Vicadia? These are kind of nightmares on the roles actually. That was actually better on the other lineup though. Maybe I should go for the Jota lineup instead. I think it had better roles. Do I go back? Roles are pretty important in this game. You know what? Jota, I believe in you. I believe in you, Jota. You're gonna do well for me. Please. Please do well for me. So then it's Tenzu and 910. Yeah, 910. He looked very solid. He passed the eye test very easily. The last event. These are still the same. And then here, other things. Because, yeah, 910 is actually doing a lot of opening still. He's very good on the AWP, specifically. And then Jota. Actually kind of also a headshot machine, so maybe 426. Yeah. Attacker on Sensu, then headshots. This makes sense. The roles are just so much better with this lineup. Use the money better. Even though Jota is a bit overpriced, he can still be an extremely good pick for this team. And he's also kind of passed the eye test for me. Like, I think he's looking very comfortable in this lineup, but who knows? Let's hope for the best. Boosters. Who's the best KST player? It is Senzu. That's fine. Although it might actually be Jota in this case. I think it's just way easier as a matchup. Then just throw good boosters on these players, like Avenger, sure. Like assist is one of these high trigger rate. First Senzu, maybe later. Pistol. 910 is, oh god, no. I don't know. Top of scorecard. I guess we've used all of the good ones. Grenade kills. Sure. And then body. This is gonna be a bit difficult actually. I don't know his role on the team, but I'll put this one here. Slightly longer video, I think. Like 25 minutes have passed so far. I actually went back and forth quite a lot on these players. But I'm happy with the lineup we ended up with. It's the same draft I made when I first saw that the event went up, so usually your first instinct you should just trust. And I think Body, like the main thing here is Body as a pick. I have faith in him as a player. When he's not leading, he's actually got pretty high firepower. He doesn't have to lead on this team. He's gone to a better team. All the signs point towards him being a good pick. Which of course probably is going to mean that he's going to get dumpstered by VP or something. And that would be unfortunate, but what can you say? You have to make gambles sometimes. Either way, if you enjoy this kind of content, please remember to leave a like to this video and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.